All right, Panther fans, how's everybody doing on this fine Thursday? Yeah, it's Thursday. Kyle and I will be live tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly the time yet. I'll make a community post and create the stream here in a little bit. It might be noon, but I don't know. We'll see. Kyle and I've been kind of tired the last couple of days. It's been a lot of drizzling, humidity, and it's just like it's that time of the summer where you could just sit in a chair and you just like that. So, um, continuing our series of player grades for last season. Yeah, well, I've been mixing it up, by the way. I keep calling it this year, last year, the previous year. I'm going to try to get a little bit more consistent there. This year is 24-25. So last year is way back when, a couple weeks ago when we won the cup. So we'll try that. So we've been doing the player grades. Obviously, we did we did Barkov, we did Chucky, and today we're going to do Bobrovsky. Yeah. So this shouldn't be difficult, right? This is not difficult, but we'll go over it. We'll give him his kudos, and then everybody can go back to sleep. So now Bubba started 58 games. He was 36-17. He had 4 overtime losses. His goals against were 2.37 with a 915 save percentage, and he had 6 shutouts, which is his biggest number since his last year in Columbus, where he had 9. Now, in terms of where that 2.37 goals against and the 917 ranks in terms of ranking with his seasons, that is the best save percentage that he has had since 2017-18 with the Jackets, and the best goals against that he's had since 16-17 with the Jackets. Now, I guess we'll go over the playoff numbers here before we get into anything else. During the playoffs, 24 games, 16 wins. I wonder what that means. So he was 16-8, goals against the 2.32, save percentage of 906. He had the 2 shutouts, and that was that. So he's 35 now, but of course he's going to be 36 at the start of the season. And in terms of his grade, I mean, there's nothing you can do but give him an A+. That's the easy part. Now, I talked a little bit about this today on the podcast, the members only podcast. 58 starts. Now, to me, that's more than we want him to have. Now, Stolarz I think he had the best numbers of any of the backups in the NHL. So I wouldn't mind seeing, I wouldn't mind seeing that be more like a 50-32 or even a 47-35 type of thing with Bob and Knight. Of course, that depends on how Knight's going to play. But the thing about Bobrovsky is that when you look at his numbers over the course of his career, whether he's been young or old, his better seasons tend to be when he's played more, when he's had more starts. His best run of 3 straight years, 16-17, 17-18, and 18-19. Start-wise, he had 63, 65, and then 61. Those were his last 3 years in Columbus before he came to Florida. Those were pretty much the best 3 years that he had in succession. The 1 year in Columbus where he did not have as many starts, he had 49 starts in 14-15. His numbers went a little bit, not too bad, but 2.68 and a 918. So as much as it would seem to most of us, where we would say in the real logical world, as we get older, maybe he needs to back off a little bit, the stats don't bear that out. Now, most of the other years that we've seen Bob play for us, there's been a tendency to somewhere around 4, 5, 6 games in a row, kind of will fall off a little bit, and now you got to put the backup in. Um, we didn't see that as much this season. We really didn't. He had I think there was the one bad game against Tampa in the playoffs. And of course, we struggled a little bit there in a few of those games against the Oilers, but that wasn't necessarily on Bob. I don't know what you call those 3 games, the glitch in the matrix. We tried to choke it up. The pressure was too much 3 times. I don't know. I don't care because we won. But I wouldn't put those numbers and those extra goals for the most part on Bob. So while in a normal circumstance, you would look at this and, like I said, you would maybe want to reduce Bob's starts to 50 or even below 50. I don't know that that's the best thing for him. He is legendary in terms of his work ethic. And I mean, he seems to be the kind of guy that when he gets exhausted from practicing, his answer to the exhaustion is to practice more. I think that's the kind of guy we're dealing with. So I don't think you're going to see a huge reduction in his games unless Spencer Knight. Well, I can't even say that because I was going to say unless Spencer Knight really, really plays well, but Stolarz, Knight's not going to have better numbers than Stolarz, right? Stolarz was lighting up the place, and Bob was still the guy. I think he just wants to be that guy until he's not. So we're just going to have to see how that plays out. We talked a little bit again about this at the podcast in terms of, Spencer Knight making sure that, he gives Bob some rest and everything like that. But Bobrovsky is going to turn out to be one of those guys. I'm not calling him Tom Brady. Obviously, he hasn't won 5, 6 cups or whatever it is. But, with Brady until the very end, right, he really didn't show the normal aging, the normal effects of aging. You know what I mean? He just kept playing well and playing well and playing well. Now, I have talked about in the past where I'm not, and this could change now that he's won a cup, but I don't know if I'm entirely convinced because of how much work he likes to do and how much he enjoys the game. I'm not entirely convinced that these 2 seasons are going to be the end for him and he's just going to retire and ride off into the sunset. He might because he's going to, maybe want to spend time with his family and everything like that. But if he continues to play at the level that he's at and the Panthers say, hey, you want to stick around for a couple of more years and be Knight's backup and everything like that, I wouldn't say that that's an impossibility. You know what I mean? I have not heard him talk about I'm definitely retiring or anything like that. And like I said, his work ethic, remember with Luongo, he still wanted to play, but what was happening for him, he was saying that it was taking him almost 2 hours to loosen up the hip before the game. The regimen that he was having to stay on to continue to play was just too much. Now with Bobrovsky, right? Okay, he hasn't really had, I don't want to jinx anything. He's been healthy. We'll put it that way. So I'm not entirely convinced. I know these last 2 years he's going to get 10 million, right? But maybe Bob just says, hey, I'll take a lot less money. I'll be the backup. I still want to be, part of the team, right? So there's that angle. But for right now, what I find myself the most amusing about the situation is for the first couple of years, there was a lot of, you wouldn't have found very many people that would have said, yeah, the $10 million contract was worth it, right? He wasn't playing up to the level that we expected, and the results showed on the ice. But now we got a cup. We got 2 cup finals appearances. We got a cup win. We're certainly in line to possibly get at least one more. So that 10 million We're good, man. We're good. That whole thing now has turned out to be worth it. In terms of his playoff performance, um, compared to what he did last year, let me see. Let me flip that back up here real quick. Um, Clearly his most successful playoffs. Now, numbers wise, his best playoff was actually his last year with Columbus. That was the year that they took care of the Lightning. He played 10 games. He was 6-4, had a 2.41 goals against and a 925 save percentage. Now, his save percentage wasn't fantastic at 906 this year, but we all know a lot of that's because the only shots that some of these teams were getting was quality shots, right? We hold a team to 20, 25 shots a night a lot of times. And so if a couple of goals go in because they were high quality chances, then his save percentage is not going to look all that good. But to go through a cup run and come out at his age with the goals against the 2.32, that's just A plus work. There's just nothing else to do but give Bubba the A plus. And in years past, we've talked about it. Like I said, the backup goaltender is a very important piece for the Panthers. But at the same point, what we're seeing with Bobrovsky is as he's getting older, the more games he plays, the better he is. That doesn't make any sense to any of us. That's not how it works. So that's when I was saying he's kind of like Brady, where there's the norm of what happens when you get old, and then there's the exception to the rule. And it looks like we are being blessed, Florida Panther fans, with a goaltender that is turning out to be the exception to the rule as he aged. And that's just, we've earned it. We've absolutely earned it. All right. This one was short and sweet. What is there more to say, right? He was great. He's getting better as he gets older. It's A plus work. He should have won the Vezina. Maybe he still will. You don't know. Maybe he still will. So, like I said, Colin and I will be live tomorrow. I don't know, noon, 2 o'clock, somewhere in there, something like that, just to hang out, right? There's not a whole lot to talk about. I'll talk with you guys about the dogs, and we'll just hang out for a little bit so that we can, stay sharp that way. And then I'm not going to I might still have something out over the weekend, but my goal is that at least Monday through Friday, I'll have at least one video out a day for you all until things start to get moving. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna go have a pizza and fall asleep in my recliner.